Hi, I'm Dr. Ellis, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to start baby foods. We get a lot of questions about that, and we review it usually at your 4-month or your 6-month visit, but I'm going to go through and follow the handout that we have that's in our website. You can also look at some videos from the Academy of Pediatrics on their website called healthychildren.org. If you put baby foods, it'll kind of go through how to start baby foods and about responsive feeding and so forth. Everybody asks, when should we start it? The majority of your nutrition should be in the first 6 months from either breast milk or formula. If you want to start baby foods around 5.5 months, their babies are probably ready. They need to be kind of sitting with a good head support, and it takes a little while for them to get rid of the tongue thrust. But if you do it too soon, all they do the whole time is kind of just push the food out. Grandmas are usually bugging you and want you to start around 4 months, and you can, but it's not really useful because they're not going to take too much at that age. But you could maybe try a little taste of things here and there. So when you start the baby foods, here in the States, the tradition is to start with cereal, and that's kind of our way of getting zinc and iron in babies. Babies that are breastfed get low in zinc and iron by 4 to 6 months, and so this is our way of getting zinc and iron in them. In other countries, they add beef powder to their foods or beef, and so you can do it that way too. If you start with foods that you're going to make yourself, I would recommend that you do kind of the savory foods first, like the meats and the vegetables first, and then the fruits, because we have an instinct to like things that are sweet because they're rarely poisonous, and it's possible that your baby kind of will expect everything sweet on the spoon if you start all the way in the beginning with fruits. So a good thing to start with is maybe like sweet potatoes or squash or carrots, something kind of good but not too good, and then you can use that to add new things into. Like every 3rd or 4th day you can add a new thing into the diet. And mixing enhances food acceptance, so you can kind of maybe start with carrots, and then you tried beef and they hated it. You can then mix a little bit of beef into the carrots and kind of go on like that. And if you're going to buy your own, you can buy commercial baby foods. They have them in little jars, different brands. They're all fine. Meat is difficult to make on your own, so it's probably easier to buy the meat and then mix it into the stuff that you make your own. But you can just get sweet potatoes and cook them up, or you can start with avocados and scrape it and give it to the baby that way. If you choose to do baby cereal, it's actually baby cereal, not like Rice Krispie treats. Rice Krispies. It's a real baby cereal that you start with, and it's fortified usually with zinc and iron, so that's the benefit of it. It's also cheap and it doesn't stain, so that's why a lot of people start with it, and you can make as much as you want and as thin as you want. So maybe about 5.5 months you start your baby on that, and when they're kind of not thrusting the food out, then you can move on to the more expensive baby foods or the foods that you make. We do recommend that you do start with spoon feeding. We don't do cereal in a bottle unless babies have reflux, but they need to learn how to eat from a spoon. We also don't want them to start off right away with just finger foods, because babies really aren't coordinated enough to do that baby-led weaning and that they feed themselves. Babies can feed themselves well when they're around 9 months or so, but they do need extra nutrition after 6 months other than just the formula and the breast milk. So you do have to teach them how to eat it from a spoon, but you do want to start finger foods early so they can play with their food. Playing with your food enhances food acceptance and so forth. And then when they're ready for finger foods, you can start like making little chunks of sweet potato, little chunks of tofu. If you could eat the food on the roof of your mouth, if you get the food with just your tongue on the roof of your mouth, then that's probably soft enough to be a finger food. But at first it's going to be the pureed foods, then it's going to be mashed foods. By the time they're 8 or 9 months, they should be able to eat like a broccoli floret that's really well cooked, a chunk of sweet potato, and so forth. Still some rules apply. There's no honey until a year, and babies should have fish, but they should have no fish that has mercury. So the same ones you couldn't have in pregnancy or breastfeeding, the babies can't have either, or children shouldn't have. They can have honey at a year. And when you do the baby foods, you know, you hear a lot about bland baby food and no extra salt and so forth. But you do want the food to be flavored how you normally would eat it. You know, Indian babies have to learn to eat Indian food. Italian babies have to learn how to eat Italian food. So if you use like oregano, curries, that's fine to use too. You just don't want to like over salt the food after you make it, because kind of salt is an acquired taste, and you want them to be, they need salt in their diet, but you don't want to be taught to be an over salter. And you should not use monosodium glutamate, which is accent, because babies can't tell you they have a headache. So no MSG in their food. When you introduce foods, we want you to introduce allergens early. So that might be an advantage to starting before 6 months, is apparently the earlier you taste, you know, peanut butter or eggs or wheat or soy, the highly allergenic foods, the less chance you have of actually developing an overt allergy to them. We found out this from countries like Israel, that they use peanut little Cheetos. This is the one they use there. It's called Bamba, and it's like a little Cheeto made out of peanut, and it's their first teething cookie that they use, and they have 10 times less peanut allergies than we do. And so lo and behold, it turns out that we're on a study that was done here that people introduced to peanut butter early never developed their peanut allergy. Like 90% of them that were tested allergic to peanut on their skin at 4 months, if they were given peanut butter or peanut like this before 6 months, did not show a peanut allergy. So it's protective if you do it early. And on our website, under parent handouts, if you go onto the 4-month section, it does have a link and a handout from the Allergy Association kind of explaining that, and a link to them with a video about food allergies. And it'll tell you which ones we consider food allergies. But it's peanuts, nuts, soy, wheat, dairy, eggs, shellfish and fish, and sometimes even sesame. So you want to introduce those in a form appropriate for the baby to eat, and early on and at home. And if they have hives, which is usually the reaction they'll have, it will be within an hour of having the food, little red blotches. You want to call us and stop that food. You want to have Benadryl at hand in case the hives don't go away, Benadryl or Zyrtec, and we'll tell you what the dose is. Basically, the dose of Benadryl is about your dose of Tylenol. So if you take 2.5 of Tylenol, you would take 2.5 of Benadryl if the hives just don't go away. Babies rarely get a severe reaction the first time they have the foods, but they might have a reaction with subsequent exposure. So if you have a food the baby's allergic to, you need to let us know, and you need to avoid that food until we tell you it's okay. Usually we have to do a test for that. Now, as far as the second 6 months of life, what we call the weaning months, so as your baby gets really good at eating the food, they can substitute the food for the milk. You want to be down to, if you're on formula, 16 to 24 ounces of formula by 12 months. If you're breastfeeding, that would be 2 to 3 feedings a day. Hopefully the first ones that go away are the ones in the middle of the night. You know, by 9 months, 75% of babies are sleeping through the night, so there's always an end in sight. Don't worry. So let's say your baby is about 8-9 months and they really can eat well and they know how to shovel it in pretty quickly. When you wake up in the morning, instead of nursing your baby or giving them a bottle, go ahead and give them some food. You know, you maybe can give some yogurt and some cereal or some avocado, and the baby takes it. And then you're going to go ahead and then feed the baby the milk after that breakfast. The baby's going to take a nap. They're going to wake up. They're going to eat lunch. Have some milk again. Breastfeed or nurse. Have an afternoon nap and wake up, have dinner. And when you eat, you should try to feed your baby. If they're awake, you want to socialize them into eating what you eat and when you eat in a form that's appropriate for them. And kind of go from there. And everything will kind of fall into place if you just keep it simple and just go by those principles. You do want to listen to your baby's hunger cues. Babies will tell you when they're full. If your baby, you're feeding him and he starts turning away, he's done with that. You can try something different. Maybe he doesn't want something so heavy, but usually they're very good at knowing when they're full, and they'll turn away. And you should always respect babies' satiety centers and what they say, what we call responsive feeding, even when they're older. Kids done, they're done. You don't try to tell them to eat one more bite, or you need to finish your plate or you're not going to get your dessert. Apparently we're all taught how to overeat, so you kind of want to avoid that. And then when they're 1, we wean them onto whole milk in the 2nd year of life. So breast milk, whole milk, or formula is appropriate also in the 2nd year of life. So most people go to whole milk. So that's what you can look forward to. If you wean your baby off of breast milk before a year, and they need to be weaned onto formula before a year, and once they're 6 months old, don't wean them onto a bottle. Wean them onto a sippy cup, so you don't have yet another thing to have to wean. Okay, and always start introducing sippy cups around 6 months, and you'll be good with that. All right, if you guys have any questions about this, you can refer to our handouts, and also again that healthychildren.org website is a really good website to go to from the Academy of Pediatrics. All right, I hope this was helpful.